Have you ever wondered what the price of pride is? The pride of a nation? The dream of an empire? A dream so distant from reality that it ends up swallowing the very people who dreamed it. Today, I tell you such a story. A story that is one of Japan's deepest secrets. A story buried for 75 years. A story where 1,121 young men paid with their lives. This story begins in 1920. Japan is at the peak of its power, dreaming of ruling the seas. And to make this dream come true, they built her. The Mutsu. 39,000 tons of steel. 224 meters of pure ambition. 8 16-inch guns that could fire shells weighing over a ton. She wasn't just a battleship. She was a statement. A statement to America, we can match you. A statement to Britain, your empire has competition. A statement to the world, Japan has arrived. But here's what they didn't tell you. What no propaganda poster showed. What no newspaper celebrated. The Mutsu was born with a secret sickness. A sickness in her very bones. A sickness no one wanted to see. Because seeing it would mean admitting failure. And in 1930s Japan, failure was not an option. It was a disgrace. It was a sin. So they looked away. The engineers who noticed the flaws looked away. The officers who saw the problems looked away. The admirals who heard the warnings looked away. They all looked away. Because the Mutsu had to be perfect. She had to be invincible. She had to be the symbol of a perfect empire. But symbols have a way of becoming tombstones. And perfect empires have a way of crumbling. Let me take you to that morning. June 8th, 1943. Hiroshima Bay. The air is warm. The sea is calm. On board the Mutsu, 1,474 men are going about their day. Some are writing letters home. Some are dreaming of leave. Some are just boys, fresh from their villages, still learning how to be sailors. Among them is 19-year-old Kenji Tanaka. He joined the Navy to make his family proud. His mother cried when he left. His father shook his hand, a rare show of emotion. Kenji is below decks right now, polishing brass, doing what young sailors do. Dreaming of the day he'll go home a hero. He doesn't know he has 37 minutes left to live. On the bridge is Captain Miyoshi, a serious man, a proud man, a man who believes in Japan's destiny. He's looking at reports, fuel levels, ammunition counts, maintenance schedules. What he doesn't see is the report buried at the bottom of the pile. A report from 3 weeks ago. A report about unusual heat in the number 3 turret magazine. A report marked, investigate when convenient. It was never convenient. Below decks, in the very heart of the ship, something is happening. Something small. Something insignificant. In the number 3 turret magazine, where 400 tons of explosive powder are stored, a single bag has begun to sweat. The humid June air has seeped into the storage compartment. The black powder inside is absorbing moisture. And when black powder gets damp, it becomes unstable. It produces heat. And heat, in a room full of explosives, is a death sentence. But no one knows. The temperature gauge is broken. It hasn't worked for 6 months. The repair request was denied. Not essential wartime spending. So the heat builds. Slowly. Silently. On deck, a young sailor named Hiroshi is on watch duty. He's 18. From a fishing village. He knows the sea better than he knows the Navy. And right now, something feels wrong to him. The air smells strange. Metallic. Like the air before a lightning strike. He mentions it to his superior. The older man shrugs. Imagination, he says. Too much night watch. And so, Captain Robert Sherbrooke turns HMS Onslow, this small, frail ship, directly towards the mighty Admiral Hipper. He orders full speed. The engines groan. The bow cuts through the icy water. Behind him, the other destroyers fall in line. They are a line of little giants, facing down a monster. They begin to lay a thick, choking screen of white smoke, trying to blind the German gunners to hide the convoy. The Hipper opens fire. The first salvo is a ranging shot. The shells scream overhead, monstrous projectiles that sound like tearing metal. They land with colossal plumes of white water, taller than the ships themselves. The sea erupts around the British destroyers. This is it. The Battle of the Barents Sea has begun, and it starts with a suicide charge into the teeth of the enemy. What follows is not a battle in any conventional sense. It is a desperate, chaotic ballet of smoke, ice, and courage played out on a stage of freezing gray water. Captain Sherbrooke's plan is audacious, insane, and the only one he has. He will not stand and fight a gunnery duel. He cannot win that. Instead, he will harass. He will confuse. He will be a mosquito buzzing around the ears of a giant, stinging whenever he sees an opening. His weapon is not his guns, but his torpedoes and the threat they pose. A single torpedo hit could cripple even the mighty Hipper. The Onslow and her sisters, the Obedient and Orwell, weave in and out of their own smoke screen. They are gray ghosts in the gloom. The German gunners on the Hipper are confused, frustrated. They can't get a clear shot. Every time their massive turrets swing towards a target, it disappears into a wall of white smoke, only to reappear moments later from another direction, firing its small guns, launching the deadly promise of torpedoes. Sherbrooke is dancing with a dragon, and he is leading the dance. In the magazine, the temperature hits 200 degrees Celsius, 392 Fahrenheit. The powder doesn't just burn now. It decomposes. It releases gases. Pressure builds. The steel walls of the magazine begin to groan. A sound like a giant waking up. On the bridge, Captain Miyoshi is finally giving the order. Inspect the number 3 magazine. Immediately, the order goes down the chain. It will take 3 minutes to reach the right people. They don't have 3 minutes. They have 45 seconds. Kenji Tanaka hears the groaning metal. He looks up from his polishing, confused. What is that sound? Like a wail in pain. He starts walking toward the sound. Curiosity overcoming training. In the magazine, the pressure is now critical. The steel walls are bulging. Red hot. The gases have nowhere to go. They're trapped. Building. At exactly 12:13 p.m. and 17 seconds, the Mutsu reaches her breaking point. The magazine explodes. Not an explosion. The explosion. 400 tons of high explosive powder detonating simultaneously. The force is unimaginable, equivalent to 100 tons of TNT. The center of the ship, 50 meters of solid steel, simply vanishes, turns to dust, turns to nothing. The forward and rear sections of the ship are thrown upward, like a child breaking a toy. They hang in the air for a moment, suspended against the blue sky. Then they crash back down. The sound is heard 20 kilometers away. Windows break in Hiroshima. People think it's an earthquake. On what remains of the deck, Hiroshi is thrown into the sea. He hits the water hard, knocks the breath out of him. When he surfaces, gasping, he sees hell. The ship is broken in half. Both halves are sinking. Fast. Men are in the water, screaming, burning. The water itself is on fire. Burning oil has spread across the bay. He sees his superior, the man who slapped him. The man is clinging to a piece of wreckage. His face is blank with shock. Hiroshi swims toward him, not to save him, to ask him, was I imagining things? But before he can reach him, an underwater explosion sucks the man down. He disappears without a sound. Below decks, Kenji Tanaka never knew what hit him. One moment he was walking. The next moment, nothing. No pain. No fear. Just nothing. His polished brass fitting is found later, on the ocean floor, still shining. Captain Miyoshi is on the bridge when it happens. He sees the deck rise up to meet him. Then darkness. He wakes up in the water. His leg is broken. His uniform is torn. He sees his ship dying. His men dying. And in that moment, he knows. He knows it wasn't an enemy. It wasn't a torpedo. It was them. Their own neglect. Their own pride. Their own refusal to see. He starts swimming toward the sinking wreck. Not to save himself. To go down with his ship. The tradition. The honorable thing to do. But a young sailor grabs him. A boy he doesn't recognize. No, Captain. Live. Tell the truth. The captain looks at the boy, sees the fear in his eyes, and something else. Something like accusation. He lets the boy pull him to a life raft. In the water around them, 1,121 men are dying. Some quickly, some slowly, some burn, some drown, some are crushed by falling debris. In 2 minutes, the mighty Mutsu is gone. The pride of Japan, the symbol of empire. Now just a memory, and 1,121 memories with it. But this is where the story should end. A tragedy, a terrible accident. War is hell. These things happen. Except, that's not what happened next. What happened next is the real story. The story they didn't want you to hear. The story that makes this more than just a naval disaster. This makes it a crime. Because within 1 hour of the explosion, before all the bodies were even recovered, the cover-up began. A Japanese Navy speedboat arrives at the scene, not to rescue survivors. to deliver orders. The orders come directly from Naval High Command. From Tokyo. The orders are simple. This was an American submarine attack. Repeat, American submarine attack. Any survivor who says otherwise will be charged with treason. Court-martial. Execution. The surviving officers are gathered. 353 men out of 1,474. They're wet. They're injured. They're in shock. And they're being told to lie. To betray their dead comrades. To betray the truth. Captain Miyoshi listens to the orders. His broken leg is screaming in pain. But that's nothing compared to the pain in his chest. The pain of what he's being asked to do. He looks at his men. Their faces. Some are crying. Some are staring blankly. Some are already dead inside. He opens his mouth to refuse. To say, no, we must tell the truth. For the families. For the honor of the dead. But before he can speak, a young lieutenant speaks first. We understand, sir. American submarine. We will all say it. The captain looks at the lieutenant. Sees the fear in his eyes. Not fear of death. Fear of dishonor. Fear of what happens to officers who disobey orders in wartime Japan. They don't just execute you. They execute your family. They erase your name. They make you never have existed. So the captain closes his mouth. Nods. The lie is born. That afternoon, the official announcement is made. The battleship Mutsu, pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy, was tragically sunk today by an American submarine. All hands fought bravely. The enemy was driven off. The Mutsu died a hero's death. Newspapers print the story. Radio broadcasts repeat it. The families of the dead receive telegrams. Your son died heroically defending Japan from the American enemy. But the families who live near Hiroshima know. They heard the explosion. They saw the smoke. They talked to fishermen who were there, who saw no submarine, who saw no battle, who saw a ship blow up from the inside. They start asking questions. Quietly, carefully, in whispers. The Kempeitai, the Japanese secret police, hear the whispers. They visit the families. Your son was a hero. Don't dishonor his memory with questions. The message is clear. Ask again, and you'll join your son. So the families fall silent. They hang the portrait of their dead son. They light incense. They mourn in silence. A silence enforced by fear. But on the ocean floor, the Mutsu keeps her secrets. Her two broken halves. Her dead still inside. Her truth waiting. The war continues. Japan loses. Hiroshima is destroyed by an atomic bomb. Just miles from where the Mutsu sank. Irony piled upon tragedy. After the war, the American occupation forces arrive. They hear rumors about the Mutsu. About a cover-up. They investigate. They find survivors. They pressure them to talk. And slowly, painfully, the truth begins to emerge. Not the whole truth. Not yet. But pieces. Fragments. A surviving sailor, now working as a fisherman, tells an American officer over sake. It was the magazine. I saw the heat reports. They ignored them. An old engineer, living in poverty, shows a notebook. Diagrams. Calculations. The ventilation system was flawed. I warned them. They fired me. Piece by piece. Whisper by whisper. The wall of lies begins to crack. But just as the truth is about to come out, something strange happens. The American investigation is suddenly called off. The files are classified. The witnesses are told to stop talking. Why? Because in 1948, America needs Japan as an ally. Against the new enemy, the Soviet Union. And allies don't expose each other's war crimes. Especially not crimes against their own people. So a new silence descends. Not enforced by the Kempeitai this time. Enforced by geopolitics. By the Cold War. By strategic interests. The Mutsu's wreck is declared a war grave. Off limits. No diving allowed. No exploration. Let the dead rest. Let the secrets stay buried. And they do. For decades. Families grow old. Survivors die. Memories fade. The Mutsu becomes a footnote in history books. Japanese battleship sunk in mysterious circumstances. But the ocean doesn't forget. And truth has a way of floating to the surface. No matter how deep you bury it. In 1970, a Japanese marine archaeologist named Dr. Tanaka, no relation to Kenji, becomes obsessed with the Mutsu. He's a young man. Idealistic. He believes in truth. He starts researching. Quietly. Persistently. He finds surviving crew members. Old men now. Hardened by life. Broken by memory. At first, they won't talk. The fear is still there. 25 years later, and they still look over their shoulders. But Dr. Tanaka is patient. He visits them, brings them gifts, listens to their stories about other things, earns their trust. One by one, they break. An old gunner's mate, dying of cancer, gives him a diary, hidden all these years, written in 1943. Details of the faulty temperature gauges, the ignored reports, the pressure to keep quiet. A former officer, living in shame, gives him official documents, stamped top secret, orders to falsify records, orders to intimidate survivors. Dr. Tanaka pieces it together. The whole story, the design flaws, the negligence, the cover-up. He writes a book. He plans to publish. Then the threats start. Not from the government. From right-wing groups. You dishonor Japan. You insult our heroes. Stop or else. His publisher gets cold feet. Refuses to publish. Newspapers won't touch the story. Too controversial. Let sleeping dogs lie. Dr. Tanaka is undeterred. He goes to television. A small documentary channel. They agree to make a film. They start filming. 2 weeks into filming, Dr. Tanaka's house burns down. All his research, all his documents, gone. The fire department calls it electrical fault. Dr. Tanaka knows better. He's broken, defeated. He gives up. The truth is buried again. But here's the thing about truth. It's patient. It can wait. It knows that every lie has an expiration date. In 1995, Japan changes. The bubble economy has burst. The certainty of the post-war years is gone. People start questioning old narratives, looking for new truths. A new generation of researchers picks up where Dr. Tanaka left off. They have new tools, underwater cameras, computer modeling, declassification laws in America finally releasing old files. They dive to the wreck, illegally, risking arrest. They film the broken hull, the twisted metal. They find something Dr. Tanaka never saw. In the forward section, they find a sealed compartment. Inside, perfectly preserved by the cold, dark water, are documents, ship's logs, maintenance records, and most importantly, the captain's personal diary. Captain Miyoshi kept a diary. Even after the war, even after he was told to destroy it. He hid it. Maybe for this moment. Maybe for us. The diary is recovered. The pages are waterlogged but readable. And on one page, dated June 9th, 1943, the day after the disaster, Captain Miyoshi writes 7 words that change everything. They ordered me to lie. I lied. That's it. No explanation. No details. Just 7 words. But 7 words that break a 50-year silence. The researchers take the diary to the government, to the Navy, to the press. This time, they can't ignore it. This time, the evidence is too strong. In 1998, 55 years after the Mutsu sank, the Japanese government makes an announcement. A small announcement, buried on page 7 of the newspapers. The official investigation into the sinking of the battleship Mutsu has been reopened. New evidence has come to light. The investigation takes 3 years. They interview the last 12 survivors, all in their 80s now, men at the end of their lives, finally telling their stories. They examine the wreck with robots. They analyze the metal. They reconstruct the events minute by minute. And in 2001, they release their findings. Not with fanfare, not with apology, but with cold, hard facts. The Mutsu sank due to catastrophic magazine explosion caused by improper ammunition storage and inadequate safety protocols. No enemy action was involved. Previous reports to the contrary were falsified. That's it. 58 years. 1,121 deaths. And all they get is one sentence of truth. No one is punished. The officers who gave the order to cover up are long dead. The admirals who ignored the warnings are dead. The politicians who cared more about image than lives are dead. Only the families remain. The children who never knew their fathers. The wives who grew old alone. The parents who died waiting for answers. They receive a letter from the government. A form letter. We regret to inform you that the official cause of death of your relative has been amended. No apology. No compensation. No justice. Just a corrected form. But for some families, it's enough. The truth, however late, however small, is enough. One old woman, 92 years old, daughter of a Mutsu sailor, tells a reporter, "My whole life, I wondered if my father died afraid. Now I know he died because of someone's carelessness. It doesn't bring him back, but it lets me stop wondering." That's what the Mutsu story is really about. Not about explosions, Not about cover-ups. Not about politics. It's about 1,121 men who went to work one morning and never came home. It's about families who waited for answers that never came. It's about a truth that was buried because it was inconvenient. It's about what happens when pride becomes more important than people. The Mutsu still lies at the bottom of Hiroshima Bay. Her two halves, 200 meters apart. A permanent monument to a broken dream. But if you listen closely, if you listen to the waves above her, you can almost hear the whispers. The whispers of 1,121 voices saying, "Remember us. Remember what happened here. Remember so it doesn't happen again." Because that's the real tragedy. Not that the Mutsu sank, but that we needed 75 years to admit why. So where does this leave us? With a broken ship at the bottom of the sea and a broken truth that took 75 years to surface. But this story isn't over. Because the most important part begins now. What does the Mutsu teach us? Why does a ship that sank in 1943 matter in 2024? I want to tell you about three people. First, Mrs. Aiko Sato. She was 4 years old when her father died on the Mutsu. She's 85 now. She spent her entire life with a single photograph. Her father in his uniform, smiling. She told me, "For 70 years, I believed he died a hero, fighting Americans. Then they told me he died because of a broken thermometer. Which truth hurts more? I still don't know." Second, former sailor Haruto Yamamoto, one of the 353 survivors, 99 years old, living in a small apartment in Tokyo. He said, "Every June 8th, I visit the harbor. I throw flowers into the water, not for my friends, for myself, because I survived, and because I lied when they told me to lie." Third, a young Japanese historian named Ken, 28 years old, grandson of a Mutsu sailor he never met. He told me, "My generation doesn't want heroic lies. We want painful truths, because only truth lets us heal." Three people, three generations, one ship. The Mutsu forces us to ask difficult questions. Questions every nation must ask itself. When is pride dangerous? When does loyalty become blindness? When does, for the greater good, become an excuse for evil? Japan in 1943 believed it was creating a perfect society, a perfect military, perfect ships. But perfection is a lie. Everything human has flaws. The danger isn't in having flaws. The danger is in denying them. The Mutsu's engineers knew about the ventilation problem. They filed reports. Those reports were ignored. Why? Because fixing the problem would mean admitting the ship wasn't perfect. And during wartime, image was everything. Morale was everything. So they chose image over safety. They chose morale over lives. But here's what they didn't understand. Truth doesn't disappear. It waits. It gathers in dark corners, in forgotten files, in the memories of old men. And one day, it demands to be heard. The official cover-up lasted from 1943 to 2001. 58 years. Think about that. 58 years of official lies. 58 years of families not knowing how their loved ones really died. 58 years of history books getting it wrong. Why? Because the truth was embarrassing. Because it showed failure. Because it exposed negligence. And no government, no military, no institution likes to admit failure. But failure is human. Negligence is human. The real crime isn't making a mistake. The real crime is burying that mistake and letting others pay the price. Let me show you something chilling. In 2010, researchers compared the Mutsu disaster to other tragedies. The Space Shuttle Challenger explosion in 1986. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The Boeing 737 MAX crashes. They found the same pattern every time. Warning signs ignored. Engineers silenced. Reports buried. A culture that valued results over safety. Image over reality. The technical term is normalization of deviance. It means small warnings are ignored until they become normal. Then a bigger warning is ignored. Then a bigger one. Until disaster strikes. On the Mutsu, the first warning was a faulty temperature gauge in 1940. Ignored. The second warning was a small fire in 1941. Ignored. The third warning was the heat report in June 1943. Ignored. Then the explosion. How many warnings are we ignoring today? In our corporations? Our governments? Our own lives? The Mutsu is more than a shipwreck. She's a mirror. Look into her broken hull, and you'll see reflections of our world. Reflections of companies that hide product defects. Reflections of governments that hide mistakes. reflections of cultures that value saving face over saving lives. But there's hope in this story too, because truth won. Eventually, after 75 years, after threats, after fires, after silence, truth won. Those old survivors who finally spoke. That historian who kept researching. Those divers who risked arrest to film the wreck. They're the heroes of this story, not because they were brave, but because they were persistent, because they believed that sunlight is the best disinfectant. That truth, however painful, is better than comfortable lies. Today, the Mutsu's wreck is protected. A war grave. No diving allowed. But every year, on June 8th, a small ceremony is held. Families of the dead, survivors, historians, they gather on boats above the wreck. They throw flowers. They read names. Not just the names of the dead, but the truth of how they died. It's a quiet ceremony. No speeches, no flags, just flowers on water, and truth in the air. That's the legacy of the Mutsu. Not as a weapon of war, but as a lesson in humility, a warning about pride, a testament to the endurance of truth. So what should we remember? Remember the 1,121 men. But more importantly, remember why they died. Not because of enemy action, because of human error, human arrogance, human fear of admitting error. And remember this. Every time we choose truth over convenience, every time we listen to warnings instead of ignoring them, every time we admit mistakes instead of hiding them, we honor those 1,121 men. We make their deaths mean something. The Mutsu sank in 2 minutes. The lie lasted 75 years. But the truth? The truth lasts forever. Let it last. Let it guide us. Let it prevent the next disaster. That's how we turn tragedy into meaning. That's how we honor the dead. Not with more lies. Not with more pride. But with uncomfortable, painful, necessary truth. The ship that sank itself teaches us the most important lesson. The greatest danger isn't what attacks us from outside. It's what we refuse to see inside.